If you feel drained, stuck, or like you are just coasting through your career, but you have no idea what your next career move or what your next step should be, you are going to absolutely see yourself in Ruth's story. So Ruth is a client of mine who came into my program, Find Your Fulfilling Career, feeling exhausted and burned out from her job. She knew that she needed a change, but she had no idea what that change would be. She didn't know what else she could do or even how exactly to start going about making the change. So in this video, you're going to hear a conversation with Ruth where she shares how going through FYFC helped her rediscover her skills, rebuild her confidence, and ultimately land a new job that she's genuinely excited about with a $25,000 salary increase. If you have ever wondered whether a fulfilling career is possible for you without starting over in your career or taking a pay cut, you are going to love this conversation.
I'm happy to be talking to you. I feel like we did half your interview off the recording. Like we should have waited, but we'll just start from the very beginning. Think about life and career both. Before you joined Find Your Fulfilling Career, what were you experiencing in your career?
I think I remember talking to you very early on about, and I was vetting different coaches and even whether or not coaching was right for me at the time. And from there, I had been in a job for a really long time, and I had the desire to move and transition to doing something different. I really wasn't sure what that something different that I wanted to do was. All I knew, though, is that I was going to work every day, kind of doing the same or similar things, and I was kind of tired of that. I wanted something new. And I remember talking to a former colleague of mine who worked at my job, and she herself became an executive coach. And I was just like reading her website and thinking, like, what do you think I should do? What is coaching even? And how do I pursue this opportunity for myself? And so, she really helped me recognize and identify the fact that I was like, dealing with workplace trauma, and I needed a space to be able to like process, my team leaving out from under me and me holding the balance, and like how that exhaustion was impacting me, and then to really try to define what I wanted to do next. And so she'd really encouraged me to look for a program where they spend time doing that and defining who you are and what you want to do next. And so that's when I started going to LinkedIn to look for a coach. So I think the start of my journey was just feeling like real exhaustion and uncertainty about what I wanted to do next, but knowing I wanted to do something next, and what I was doing currently wasn't energizing me like I wanted it to.
Oh, wow. Thanks for sharing that. I heard a few things. I mean, one was that workplace trauma that you experienced, which was exhausting. I think a lot of times women if they don't acknowledge that, or they haven't named it, someone often has to name it for them. And they're just wondering, why do I feel exhausted? Why do I feel tired? Yeah. But then I know I need to leave, but I have no motivation to actually leave.
Right.
I don't know what the next steps are. And so I'm wondering about like that journey to even finding her, like what was there a breaking point for you where it was like, okay, no, I need to at least talk to her. And then she told you to find a coach. What led to that point of, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah. I think I had been exhausted for a while. Right. And even as my coworkers were leaving, I remember anxiously trying to follow them out the door, but every opportunity that I had interviewed for and I was offered jobs, I just never ended up taking them because of one reason or another, right? And then so I remember at the start of this year, I was definitely like praying for and feeling a sense of peace that now was the time to leave. Like when I was trying to follow other people out of the door, it wasn't aligning. It didn't sit right with me. I wasn't at peace about it. But then going into this year, I was like, okay, I know I need to do something. And actually it was my cousin who was like, you need to get a life coach. You need to do this. You need to do that. And you need to take a sabbatical. And I was like, whoa, what is all of this stuff? Right. And so, just constantly feeling like I was at the end of my rope, exhausted, burned out from work, and then really just knowing I needed to leave, but not knowing how to do that. And then my cousin bringing up that life coach aspect too helped me think about like, okay, there are coaches for stuff because people need coaching. So that really was the impetus behind me saying, okay, I need to find what's going to be best for me, a career coach or a life coach or planning a sabbatical. What is it? And so that's what led me to speaking to her and knowing that she does that executive coaching to say, what even is this to begin with? And what would it mean for me if I were to do it? So,
yeah. Okay. And I'm curious because I'm thinking of the woman who maybe knows something isn't quite right in her job. And because like you're saying, you were exhausted, you were burnt out. what did that look like? That's what I'm putting in, like, your day to day. Because I think of the woman who knows something's not quite right, but she's still sticking it out. Like, she's hoping it gets better. She's hoping it changes. So I'm wondering, what are some maybe just daily signs that you were experiencing that might help her see, okay, maybe I need to stop trying to just stick this out? Because I hear that a lot from women.
Yeah, I think a few things. For me, it was like boredom with what I was doing. I have a great, like, I'll caveat by saying, you know, my workplace is great. Like, I have great coworkers, but I had been doing the same things, I felt like, over and over and over again. And I was in a rut and I wanted to do and learn and just grow in some way. And just not feeling like that opportunity was being afforded, or I didn't see a way out aside from just like completely abandoning ship. And so there was that boredom. And I remember in my first introductions to you, where I was like filling out the intake and we had done our initial conversation, the wording that I kept using was like, I don't feel energized to like go to work, right? And so there's no battery, there's nothing that I was like looking forward to doing. I felt like I was constantly training my replacement just for that replacement to go on to greener pastures. And so there was that. So there's the boredom, and I think the lack of feeling energized about what you're working on. Obviously, there will be some times where you are working and it's, you know, you're not always 100% enthused about what you're doing. Like, that's just the ebb and flow of work. But I think if you're consistently feeling like you're dreading signing into work, you're having to find new ways to make it make sense to yourself to sign into your job. I think that's a pretty good indication. And then, I feel like even through this coaching to get to this new place, I feel like there were very many moments where I was like, I even just have to get out of my house and go to a new place to work from there, because my brain is in such a fog that I can't process. I'm not working at the capacity that I want to, because I'm not interested in what I'm doing. And so I think that those are pretty good indicators that it's time to go. And then also, if you're feeling like, you know, you just want something new, but you don't have a sense of what that something new should be, just like sitting back and being introspective about that and exploring those opportunities. Oh, yeah.
Great. Wow. Okay. So I heard no energy, no desire to sign into work. I think that brain fog is a big one that you said, the brain fog, but even the boredom. Like, I'm hearing like you were coasting day to day. I can do this in my sleep, but I'm constantly like on this hamster wheel of training people. And one that I think you said earlier that I hadn't thought about. So I've told people before, you know, because I remember one client said it, like, when someone is having that, like, they're going away party and you feel jealous, like, you're like, oh, I want to go away too. So when you said, you're like, you want to chase them out the door. Like, oh yeah.
It's like, don't leave me behind.
Like, wait, take me with you.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So then I heard that. Okay. So you knew it was time. You talked to your past coworker. She said you might need coaching. And then you went on LinkedIn and started doing research. I'm curious what you came across in your research that then made you even land on joining Find Your Fulfilling Career. What did you see that made you feel like, okay, this was going to be a fit?
Yeah, I think I was intentionally looking for a coach of color. So that was, you know, one of my initial filters. And then I think I was then, you know, she had recommended somebody to me who I had a conversation with. And then I just kept scrolling LinkedIn. And finally, I was like, you need to make some decisions. So I was like, today I'm going to contact 3 coaches, you know, that person she recommended, you know, and then I think I came across your profile and then someone else as well. And so looking for a coach of color, looking for a woman. And then I was looking for somebody to address, you know, what she had recommended that I address, right? Like burnout, an understanding of like where I wanted to go next, and then support throughout the journey. And so those were the top things that I think were coming across. And instead of contacting a bajillion different people and then letting that be overwhelming and stopping me from making a decision, because I can have that option paralysis there, I stopped on the 3. And I was like, if I do this initial communication with these 3 potential coaches and I don't like any of them, then I'll go from there and like continue to explore and find new people. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And your friend, coworker, gave you really great advice, because coaches do different things, right? And so when you're talking about that burnout, that exhaustion, that lack of clarity, I always say, I think that's one of the things that sets FYFC apart, is because of my training as a counselor, we can also have those conversations in addition to the strategy, tactical, resume, cover letter, whatever it may be. And so I'm hearing that you knew that you needed that emotional support as well as the strategy of making the next move.
Yeah. And the accountability, I think, too, because FYFC, when I talked to the other coaches, there were maybe a few sessions, and then you go from there on to yourself. And like FYFC was more of a set like program where we were dedicating ourselves to learning ourselves and figuring out what our interests were. And I think for me, also having the permission structure to be like, okay, if it's not public health or program management at the end of the day, like then what else do you do? And like letting that be okay. And being like coached through different mindsets and things that were going to be coming up during this job search process was really important. And I think in our initial conversation, I think that for me, even just down to the intakes, right? When you go to the websites and see like, what the coaches are asking for information wise and what they would like to talk to you about, that was what stood FYFC apart, because I felt the intake was really thorough. It asked me a lot of questions about what I wanted to explore. And so by the time I felt like I was talking to you, I had a good sense of who you were from the website. And then also I felt that you asked enough information about what I was looking for as well, so that we could vet whether or not it was going to be a good fit. So it was, I think for me, it was the intake, the thoughtfulness of the intake that really kind of made me feel like this could be something that I should, spend time investing in and learning. Yeah.
Great. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm smiling because now the intake is no longer a requirement, like that call. And I've had some women join this current round without it, but I still do it because I think it's just helpful, especially when you're making such a large investment. I think it's helpful to see who you're talking to if you're not sure. Ask your questions, get your questions answered, and get a better understanding of what you're coming into. That way you don't come in the program and then your expectations are not what you thought it was going to be, because we would have had a conversation. So while it's not required, I still offer like, do you want to have a 30-minute conversation with me? Here's a link. And it still has those questions you're talking about, so I can help women make the best decision. And the decision might be no, but it also might be yes. And I want to be able to guide them through that.
Yeah. And honestly, you might not have thought through the answer to those questions until you got to that intake, right? And so all of that also is important. And even if like they don't end up working with you, they end up working with someone else, like you've then now done the initial exploration of like, why are you even doing this in the first place? And you'll need that clarity to continue with coaching. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So then that brought you to FYFC. You joined us. Yay. I love that you did. That's great. So talk to us about your time in the program. Let me start first with what stood out for you as whether it's a session or activity or tool. What were things that really just helped you in this journey?
Yeah, I think in the beginning sessions where we were doing the exploration of like ourselves, what we wanted to do, I was initially hesitant about group coaching because I didn't think that would be enough one-on-one time for me to be able to like chat with the coach, get like the support that I would need, etc., which didn't end up being the case. Because sometimes I was like, oh no, I was supposed to be on here doing stuff and I haven't done it. But I think that it was those beginning sessions that helped to really define what I was looking for and what what skill sets that I wanted to keep using, what my interests are. And then again, like I said, like the permission structure to be interested in something else other than like what I've studied for so long, right? Or what I've been in. Because at that point I was just like open to, I just want to be interested in what I'm working on. And so I was open to kind of leaving, but I didn't know for what. And so having a part of the program where there was like time to more gain more clarity about who you are and what you wanted to do was really pivotal, I think, for me. So there's that. And then I think the other aspects of the program that have stood out is just just having specific things already written out, because it's the mental load of being like, what do I write in this email to get somebody to do an informational interview with me that can sometimes keep you from actually doing that next step, right? And so I remember there would be times where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm drafting this email, blah, 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 blah. And then later on, I've looked at the networking emails that get results, and I'm like, oh, this was already here. I could have just copied and pasted it. I didn't realize. And so using that then the next time around so that the barrier is lower for me, pursuing what I need to pursue to get to this next part of my career. So yeah, the self-clarity and then the concrete tools and templates to be able to just do things faster. Those were really valuable parts of the program. So,
yeah. Oh, wow. And so those first 4 modules, right? So when you talk about clarity, so we clarify your mindset, right? What do you believe? Then your values, your interests, your skills, and doing that in a group. I don't think I had heard you say before that you had that group hesitancy. This is my first time hearing that. And the reason is because so many women, like you're not the first, and I don't think you'll be the last. They're like, I don't know if group is for me. And then they come out on the other side and they're like, okay, wait, that's not what I thought it was going to be. So can you speak to that a little bit more? Because I know there's a woman listening right now who's thinking, I just want to work with somebody one-on-one. Yeah. But I'm hearing you say you also had that hesitancy, but that was not your actual experience.
Yeah. So like during our intro call, I was like, group, are you sure? And then and then you had mentioned, that cohort was also a little bit smaller, and I think that cohort had just started their first week, so I was catching up a little bit by the time I joined, and so there would be more opportunity for, even for your attention to be spread across all of us because we were a smaller group in that particular cohort, and so I was like, all right, fine, I'll give it a try. But what I found in the session was, when we were doing group coaching was you get to hear what other women are going through. And a lot of the times it's resonating with your personal experience at that moment. And so there's a sense of not being alone and not dealing with the same, dealing with the same things that other people might be dealing with. The second thing was, and it was, I don't know if I should share people's names, so I'll just say it was one of our cohort, our cohort members who joined us for a few live sessions, and they were talking about themselves in terms of like, they felt like their creativity was something everybody could do, and then the rest of us saying like, actually, we're the opposite, and so getting that clarity of mind of your skill sets are not everybody's skill sets, and where you think like you might not be unique in what you can do, you actually are, right? And so I'll use myself as an example to not share other people's story, but there was talking about like seeing color palettes and being able to pull things together and all of that. And I remember sharing an anecdote on my end where I was like, I cannot do that. I have a friend of mine who does that for me. She'll do the designs in my home and then I'll execute them, right? And so the fact that you can do that is not something that everyone can do. It's a unique and a valuable skill set on your own. So I think the other part of getting the group session is being able to even see how what you bring to the table is valuable. Not everybody has it, and getting the confidence that you can market that and use that for your next role.
Yeah, I haven't heard it put that way before. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking about how usually when women have been in the same path in their career for years and they felt stuck, they start to lose confidence in themselves. So I can see the value in seeing that actually, no, I am unique. I do have something special to add, how that can even help boost your confidence back in yourself as a professional and going into the world of work.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think, for me, sometimes I'm thinking, okay, program management, everyone can do this. And to be honest, it's not true. And it even
not at all. Not at all.
It even bears out in the office where they're like, oh, wow, like I didn't even think to do this way. And so having that opportunity to just sit back and recognize that within the group discussion was really helpful. Oh,
yeah. And then you talk about the tools. I love tools. I love creating templates for y'all. I've added more templates. I'm like, I don't want you to have to create anything for yourself. If you need something, let me know. I'll build it. Yep. And so I think about that phase when, you're doing the actual resume, cover letter, tools, template, strategy. Yep. I remember you saying right before we started recording how at the beginning, you were having this sense of, oh, why am I doing all this clarity work, right? Like this doesn't feel tactical. So talk to us about how spending time getting that clarity, how did that then show up when you were actually job searching?
Yeah. And it wasn't even also just like spending time doing the clarity work. It was like spending the time doing I was like, why can't I just pay somebody to do the LinkedIn for me? Whatever. So, I was like, I can't believe I'm rewriting my own resume. And so, I think that it was, spending time doing that clarity work helps you understand what is the I know we write like a manifesto statement basically about, what you want to use, what skills you want to use to pursue a new job, what values you want to have, right? And so that helps guide your approach to looking at jobs, vetting whether or not those are for you, and then tailoring your materials. And so all of that prep work to understand who you are and the skills and the values that you bring to the table is necessary so that when you're writing your cover letter, you're putting your resume together, you are not just writing like, oh, I did this little thing, right? You can speak to yourself proudly with confidence and say like, no, I lead teams to do this, to do that, right? And I know for me, a large part, I remember when I would do my resume audits, it was always like the so what that I was like struggling with, because I didn't feel like I had a so what. I'm like, okay, I'm doing this stuff, whatever. Anybody can do it, yada, yada, yada. And so having to really go back to the resume to continue defining the so what, even like through the fact where I'm like, oh, I don't really believe that I can, I'm doing this level of work or whatever, was still needed so that I could market myself appropriately for the next role. And actually, very funny enough, this week, one of my coworkers was like, "Oh, I have to thank you indirectly because I've been copying your LinkedIn because it's so well put together." And I was like, "Yeah, just copy whatever you want from there." But I mean, I did that development through this program, right? Even just understanding like use AI tools to enhance your writing. And so I would write what I think I need to write, and then try not to let that be a barrier to creating a polished resume. So then I would enhance through, Gemini, and then make sure I'm rereading and understanding that like this is conveying what I need it to convey. And yeah, so all of that defining yourself in the beginning is necessary in order to market yourself, and then also to be able to speak about yourself once you get to an interview, and even just before the interview, when you're speaking to people who have the career that you want, like they'll eventually, like you've said, ask you about yourself after you've been asking them about yourself. And so if you're just there like, oh, well, I don't really know what I want to do, you're kind of wasting the opportunity that you have to maybe put yourself in a place where they could refer you or tell you what to do next. And so, yeah, that's how all of those pieces ended up like working together for me.
Yeah. Wow. I love that you said that, because I talk about how, yes, you can hire a resume writer, you can hire a LinkedIn writer, but then you don't know what they are writing. Like you can read it, but you didn't do the work of, okay, what did I do? What was the impact? Let me put it to paper. Because when you create that, and mind you, we'll come back to that. When you create that, then I just think like you show up in the interviews better. Like you show up in informational interviews better, because now you have built confidence in yourself in that process, because you've seen, oh, wait, what I do does matter. It does have impact. And so you show up differently. You show up confidently, which I think is awesome. But now there's like an entire so what lesson in the program, like an entire lesson on writing so what.
So hard. That's one of the hardest things in the resume. I was like, I don't know.
I don't know why it matters.
Yeah.
No, so now I have, and you'll see, you're in there, right? I've put a lot more like bullet point templates, like how, because I remember I was telling you, okay, the skills plus the task plus the outcome. Yeah. And so I've templatized a lot of that. So I'm glad to hear that was helpful for you. Okay. So now that you are, you've secured a new job, yay, congratulations, which is very exciting. Yeah. I'm so excited for you. I'm curious. I want to spend some time just thinking about, as you're going into this new phase, this new job are you excited about the job? I don't want to assume. I know you are, but tell the people.
I am excited about it. Yes, very excited. Yeah.
Yeah. How you see yourself as a professional? How has that changed as you're going into this next phase of your career?
Yeah. I think it's both how I see myself as a professional and just like as a woman in general too. Like, having that, I'm definitely walking with like more confidence and, understanding of like the value that I bring to the table than I would say that I had before. And part of that comes with being able to secure the new job and having talked about myself and my skills and my roles. And I remember during the interview, like they would ask me questions and I would express, my skill set and what I had done before. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, where am I pulling these answers from? There's that. And so there's this idea of, there's obviously trepidation doing something new, right? I know how to do what I've been doing for the last 8 years. I got the opportunity to learn and grow under the mentorship of more senior staff. And so now moving into that, okay, I'm going straight from And probably something I should say is like, I was looking for positions that weren't direct. I'm currently a director, and then I wasn't looking for director positions because I wasn't confident that I could make that like switch to another organization without having that growth and development. But being able to say what it is exactly that I can do, and what I have had the opportunity to reflect on what I've learned and grown and developed in, helps me understand that I can do that again somewhere else. And so, yeah, I'm seeing myself as somebody that's going to come in with a lot of skill set, but then also needing those soft skills, which I know I was downplaying very, at different parts of the program, to be able to have like the intellectual curiosity and the humility to be able to go up to somebody's desk and say like, hey, I don't really understand this, can we walk through it, without like the sense of that makes me feel as though I'm not an expert. And so learning also that like leadership and leading teams is not always about having the answers. It's about working through it together and setting up the people that have the answers to get that work done. And so, yeah, I feel more confident. I mean, I'm sure maybe it will be different the first week of work where they like assign me things to do, and I think I don't know what you're talking about, but it's securing this new job and having a new organization feel that you would be a value add to them based off of what you have learned and what you've shared and what you can do. That is a confidence booster, definitely to validate the fact that of what you knew, which is you can do another job somewhere else and do that well. And somebody else has seen that value in you, and so they've hired you and they're trusting you with that position. So,
yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Okay. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you took from the program that maybe I didn't ask you about that you would like to share?
The mindset work and really journaling, praying through things. And for us, I know there's been multiple times where we've kind of come up and had to unlearn something that we feel like we think we know about, like being Christian women in the workplace, right? And those things are very valuable to have that perspective and that conversation, because you will shortchange yourself from where you need to be. There has definitely been for me, incremental progress. I know there's still things to go to, but being able to have the tools to understand how to advocate for myself, especially in like the salary negotiation process and, the benefits and setting yourself up for success in your new role. I know that you're supposed to negotiate your salary. I didn't know what to do in order to like take a step back from being in the moment of that, to be able to regroup, think about what I want to go back, have those discussions and those conversations. And I think the other thing that I'll highlight too is having, again, with the tools and like knowing what to say, is like having the words to say. So I know that during like strategy sessions where we will come with like, this is what I'm working on, this is, the jobs that I'm looking at, feeling a sense of frustration. I think for me over like the first 3 months that I was applying, first 2 to 3 months I was applying, of like, I know I can do this, but I'm not getting a role or whatever it may have been. And just having points in time where we would be able to regroup, re-strategize on what the approach should be, whether it's looking for different job titles, marketing yourself differently, looking for different industries or whatever that may have been, was super helpful. And then when the time came for negotiation, like just having sentences verbatim to say, trying to get to that, and like thinking about, all right, this is what I'm thinking about asking for. How can I do that? How do I discuss this with my future employer? Like super invaluable, because those are the kind of things that just like keep you from even just asking, right? And that's important to make sure that you're setting yourself up well for the next place that you're going to be in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So last question for the woman who's listening. Yes. She's been listening, reading the email. She's like, do I want to do this program or not? I'm not sure. I'm on the fence. It's an investment. Am I ready? Yeah. What would you say to that woman who's right on the fence and trying to make a decision?
Yeah, I would say definitely have a conversation with you, right? I would say that even though it's optional now, definitely take the intake form and sit down and think to yourself about what it is that you want to accomplish, right, at the end of this. And I would say also to to think about coaching in the same way that you would think about, getting help in any other area, right? Like you might need additional support in order to get to the next place that you wanted to be in, and asking for help in that way, or going, through a session or a program that gives you that help. This wouldn't exist if people didn't need the help to do it, right? And so I think that was, for me, an understanding of that. I would say to do the intake form, do that self-exploration, to think about what it is that is kind of grading you maybe about your current position, and thinking about where you want to go next, and then have the conversation with you to understand a little bit more about like your philosophy around coaching, what the program entails, what it could look like for you, and then come prepared with questions about what you want to get out of the program, so that you have a sense of what would make you feel successful after it's done, right? Of course, everybody wants to leave this program getting a new job with a nice salary, but there is more to it than that end result. There's, just being prepared to speak about yourself intelligibly, interview well, prepare for those negotiations, and then even to plan and craft how you're going to check in with yourself 2 years from now when you get your new job, to see, like, do I need to move on again? So yeah, just keep it backing. Let's keep going. So all of that insight is really helpful. And so I think I just take the step to self-explore, and you don't lose anything by like having the conversation with Tega to figure out, like, is this the right fit for me? And then just do it. Just do it.
Like, have the conversation and then just do it if it feels right.
Yeah. Make sure that, and to me, and I think the other aspect is like you said, it's an investment, right? So having like the plan and financial preparation to participate in this program, and knowing that, like, you may have spent hundreds of dollars investing in something else, and now you're investing in yourself, and it's going to redound to your benefit later on. So that would be my advice.
Wow. I think that was great advice. Perfect way to end. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And I mean, I'm still going to see you in coaching because you're still in the program, but thank you so much for taking the time to share.
Yes, of course. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so there you have it, my conversation with Ruth about her time in FYFC. I hope that you enjoyed that conversation. If you're ready to go from feeling stuck and drained in your career to actually excited and thriving in work again, without starting over or taking a pay cut, I would love to support you inside my coaching program, Find Your Fulfilling Career. Inside FYFC, I will guide you step by step, like literally everything that you need to help you discover your next career move, using the existing skills that you have to help you position those skills confidently and land a role that is aligned with who you are right now in your life while increasing your salary by 5 figures. You can learn more about FYFC by going to findyourfulfillingcareer.com. That link is also going to be in the description of this episode below. Again, it's findyourfulfillingcareer.com to learn more about how to join us. Ruth's story is not the exception. This is what clients in FYFC are experiencing. This is what happens when you finally have the clarity, strategy, and support that you need to thrive in your career. I cannot wait to help you find your fulfilling career also. And as usual, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons below.